if you live in UAE, one of the most important point of discussion between people is rental and labor laws. There are a lot of information people don't know, and that is why they face a lot of challenges and problems. So today I thought let's discuss these things from a person who studies law. So he can tell you what the actual law is, what are the rights of tenant, and what are the rights of homeowner. Both will try to discuss both of them. So let me introduce the guest for today. We have Mustafa, and he is an expert in law. So let's have a little bit of introduction, his background, and then right away we'll get to the most interesting points. Hi, Mustafa.
Hi, Andathar. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much. So, for the people who are watching, can you introduce a little bit about why we should know things from you and not from others?
Okay, my name is Mustafa Shauki, and I am a legal expert. I have more than 10 years of experience in the civil and corporate law, and I'm happy to be here with you today to discuss these very interesting topics. As you know that if you know your rights, it will make your life easier, way easier.
Much easier.
Yeah.
So let's get started for the first point, and a lot of friends ask me this question as well. They come to me, or sometimes we're discussing, and it happened to me, by the way, as well in past, where the homeowner would ask for an increase, which is huge, and then you say, "Is this even? I can't afford it, or is this even allowed?" So, Mustafa, guide us through that. How is the rent increment work? How does this process work?
Thank you. This is very important thing for everyone actually. In Dubai, especially, the law states that you have to follow the rental index for any increases. So the rental index is a sort of a calculation formula made by the land department in Dubai, and you go to the rental index and you put the details of your contract.
How do you go there?
So what happens is that you just type in Google RERA rental index, and then you'll find it, and then you can access this index, and then you'll put the details of your contract. So the type of the unit, the area, the size of the unit, and the contract end date.
So you mean to say that they know all the information about areas and their rentals?
Yes, so they have all the information about the areas, and you can type the details of your contract there, and they will tell you if your contract is eligible for an increase or not. So if you are the landlord or if you are the tenant, you have to use that so you can make sure that the unit is eligible for an increase. Generally, you cannot increase the rent unless you give a notice of 3 months prior to the expiry of the contract. Once you know that you're eligible or your unit is eligible for an increase, you have to give the notice and tell the tenant that the rent will be this X amount after the next year.
Okay, a follow-up question. What if, I'm not sure whether it happens or no, but what if they've written already in the contract that your rent will increase? So then do they still have to give a 3 months notice, or they can say that, in the beginning we wrote it for you that next year it will increase or something?
Well, it depends. If they made like the contract like for 3 years, total of 3 years, and they said that the first year will be that, and the second year will be that, and the third year will be that, then this will apply, yeah. But if the contract is for only for 1 year, then they have to follow the rental index to get the right increase and the correct increase.
Okay, and if for some reason they did not inform 3 months earlier, right? So let's say they message you after 15 days of 3 months, like 2 months and 15 days, and they say this is your increase. How can we respond to them then?
You can simply respond to them that as per the law, you have to give me 3 month prior notice prior to the expiry of the contract. And if you did not inform me on that time, then you will not be eligible to change anything in the contract, including the increase. And you can push back that, and he will not be able to increase the rent.
Now, the main question, which is that if they persist, right? They say, no, sorry, and whatever, and you have to, otherwise you go out and stuff. What are the steps the tenant has to take then?
In this case, you can just send a formal notice to him by email stating that you cannot accept this increase because he did not inform you on time. And then the landlord will not have any option but to file a case against you in the rental dispute center in Dubai. And then if he did not oblige with what's mentioned in the law, such as the notice time, the court or the RERA rental dispute center will not give him the increase at all.
So let's understand the scenario again. You are the owner, I'm the tenant, and you did not inform me on time. I say, no, I'm not going to increase. And you say, oh, you are going to increase anyway. Okay. So you become tough with me. So what do? I just stay there. I go somewhere. I wait for your action. How does the process in real life
Well,
work?
first you need to respond that I'm not eligible for an increase because I did not follow what the law says. And then if the landlord refused to take the checks from you or take the rent from you, then you have to go to RERA dispute center, and then you will deposit the checks there. With that process, after you deposit the checks, it means that as if the landlord took the rent from you, and he cannot, force you to increase the rent at all.
And if the landlord tries to go to the court and dispute center, would they call the tenant there?
Yes, of course. So part of the process that the tenant will be notified with from the court, and then he will come to respond on the case. Yes.
And does the tenant have to have a lawyer in this scenario, or they can just go simply and answer the questions?
No, they can go simply and answer the questions. It's not a problem at all. But you have to, whatever you submit to the court has to be in Arabic. If you speak English, then you need to do a legal translation of whatever you are going to submit to the court, because the language of the court is Arabic only.
Okay, that's good. While we were talking off camera, you mentioned about the paint job, which is very interesting for me, because when I left, I had to pay a good amount just to repaint. So you said that the tenant do not have to repaint the building or the apartment when they leave. Can you elaborate more on this topic?
Yeah, this is a very important thing, because usually what I hear from my friends that the landlords always oblige them to do a painting for the full apartment before they leave, blah blah blah. Well, actually, the thing is that unless you have done any damages to the apartment, yes, you have to fix it. But in general, but the normal wear and tear, you are not obliged generally to do painting or to fix the normal wear and tear. So if you live in the apartment for 5 years, you are not obliged to repaint it after you leave it, unless the landlord put a clear article in the lease contract mentioned that you have to do so. You are not by default obliged to do so.
No, but when normally I see contracts, they mention that you will have to return it in the same way you are taking it. So they would say it means the same. The paint was new. Now you're going, the paint is old. There are pencil marks there. So you have to remove them. So what do you do at that time?
No, it doesn't go like that, because first of all, the landlord has to prove that how it was given, the apartment. We assume that the apartment was given in a normal condition. And as I said, as a general thing, the normal wear and tear is not included in that. So the normal wear and tear is unless you use something sharp and you damaged the walls or like that, yes, you have to fix it. But otherwise, you are not obliged to do that, because this normal wear and tear, unless the landlord mentioned that clearly in the contract that you have to do painting. So yeah.
So one scenario, a very interesting scenario happened with a colleague here. She got an apartment and she's paying lower rent than
the market,
much lower. So the apartment was sold, and the new owner came thinking, this is my rent, and the rent is this. So now the new owner is all devastated, right? Because they have invested, they've bought the apartment, and she is paying low.
Yeah.
So now the new owner is asking that this is unfair to me. What do you think in this situation?
Well, actually, the new owner is obliged to follow the same contract, or like follow the tenancy contract that he bought the apartment with. So he cannot change that unless he start the process of changing it. So if he came and he took over the unit like 4 months before the expiry of the contract, he can send you a notice and tell you that after the expiry of the contract, so he give you 3 months at least of a notice. He can tell you after the next renewal, your rent will be increased by this amount, and this has to be equivalent to what RERA index says. In this case, yes, he is eligible. But if he came in and there were no notices given to by the new or the old landlord to you, then he has to follow the tenancy contract.
So even if the new owner give a 3-month notice, they still have to follow RERA.
Of course.
So, for example, let's take a hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
The person is paying a yearly 30,000,
Mm.
and the rate going on there is 42 or 44.
Mm.
So big difference.
Mm.
So the 5% would be like, I don't know, like 1,000 dirhams or less.
Mm.
So it's a huge difference.
Mm.
So they would have to abide by that.
Yes, if they did not follow the procedures mentioned in the law, they cannot increase the rent at all.
Okay. Right.
And the good thing about RERA index is that it tells you how much you need to increase, and like it is like there is a percentage of how much you can increase. So the RERA index will tell you how much exactly that you need to increase. So it will make it easy on you. You don't have to calculate anything. You just put the details of the contract. It will give you the new rent. Type eviction, for example, if he didn't follow the court notice, he cannot evict you. You know that? And if you evicted him, if you are a tenant and you got evicted by another notice by email or something, then the court will consider that you have done it amicably by yourself. You know, the issue is, or the trick is, that if the landlord did not follow the right way of eviction as per the law, he cannot evict you. And also, if the landlord, for example, sent you eviction notice and said that I need to use it for my own thing, I need it for myself, then the landlord has to really use it for himself. He cannot rent it. If it is a residential unit, he cannot rent it for 2 years. If it is a commercial unit, he cannot rent it for 3 years. So if he found out that he rented it to someone, you can file a case against him to claim a compensation, and the compensation can be huge. The compensation can be like 1 year of your rent. So this is a very, very, very important things that.
But how do you go and follow up that, okay, whether this is done or not and stuff?
This can be done through different things. You can know from the market, you can know from asking people, you can know also from get these from you can file a case and ask the court to check that part for you as well. So the court can get the information from Ijari system, and then the court can know. And also, I think brokers also nowadays have access to Ijari system, so they will be able to know like how much it was rented and when it was rented and so on. So you can ask the court, you can ask the people, you can know. People will know that it is rented to someone. There are things like terminating the labor contracts, for example. This is a very controversial topic, and whether the employer have terminated your contract unfairly or not. So in general, employer has the right to terminate your contract at any time by giving you a month notice. So the employer is obliged to give you 1 month notice. If they fail to give you 1 month notice, they have to pay you this 1 month notice. The employment law considered that if the employer terminated you because you have filed a complaint against the employer in Mohri or like the Ministry of Labor, then it means that he is terminating you unfairly and that you are eligible for a compensation. So this is one of the cases, or like this is the only case that can be considered unfair termination, and then in this case you would be eligible for compensation. But in general, the employer can terminate your contract anytime by giving you 1 month notice. So the employer can ask you to work in this 1 month notice, and also the employer can, waive his right in you working on that. But the employer has to pay you this 1 month of salary to you. After termination or after the termination of the contract, you have some, rights. Your rights, if you pass the probation, of course. If you pass probation, then you will be eligible for annual leave balance. You will be eligible for end of service. And you will be eligible for any salaries that you didn't take in during your employment. Unless it is like more than 2 years, that salary you didn't take since more than 2 years, then you will not be eligible for that. But anything below 2 years, you can claim that anytime within this period. And how to calculate the end of service or gratuity? So you have to. So the first. So it's 21 days for each year of service based on the basic salary. So 21 days for the first 5 years of employment. And then after the 5 years, you have to, the employer has to give you 30 days of basic salary for each year after the 5 years. So this is how you calculate your end of service. And then your annual leave balance, it depends on company by company, but this can be calculated. And any salaries that you didn't take through your employment journey for the past 2 years. So these are your rights. And if you didn't join another employer, then and if the current employer, like he brought you from your country, he has to send you back to your country.
Any tips for those people who are going for rent for the first time? So everybody has a first time in Dubai, right? So they rent an apartment. What things they should take care of, or what do they do when they rent apartment?
Okay, so very important tips if you are a tenant in Dubai, and if you, for example, if you have rented a furnished apartment, then you will need to take photos of the furniture. If there is any defect in the furniture, take a photo and send it by email to the landlord, telling him that when you took the apartment, this was there, and this is a defect so you will not obliged to fix that.
So it also applies other than furniture to walls, flooring, and everything, right?
Yes, that's a very important thing, and this also works the other way. So if you are a landlord and you have a furniture and even as you said, the walls, you can take photos of that and ask the tenant to sign on these photos. Make sure that it is a good quality. Ask the tenant to sign on these photos that he took the apartment with this condition, with this kind of furniture and with these pieces and everything. Is that this makes it easy for both parties to make sure that this is how I got the apartment and this is how I handed over to you the apartment, so you have to return it the same way. So also one very important tip is that try to check everything deeply before you rent the apartment, especially if they are furnished. Make sure that everything is working fine, make sure that the lights are on, everything is working, there's nothing broken, and so on, so that the landlord will not ask you later, or like there will be no dispute later on fixing that. So another very important tip as well, if you are a tenant, is to ask the current tenants about how they think the building is. Is it a good building? The maintenance in the building, the noise in the building, and these things. Ask them about the utility bills as well. As some building, you might be eligible for a free chiller. The landlord will tell you, of course, but it is good to check with the current tenants. So then you will not have to pay for the chiller. Some buildings are chiller on DIWA, so you pay the chiller on DIWA. So
I can share my experience here as well.
Okay.
I had two experiences. One, it is one area where I went, so it was the top floor. So I randomly met someone in the lift. So I asked them, "How's your experience?" They said everything is okay, but because it's the top floor and it's very high building, the apartment gets extremely hot, and the electricity bill is too much. And then when we discussed further, I realized that it was like almost a double of what you will pay for a normal apartment. So then, you have to factor in that price as well.
Yes.
So you think you are getting it 5,000 cheaper than the market or 5,000 cheaper than the other floors. What's the catch? So that was the catch.
Yes, you have to take that into consideration because you have to pay that at the end of the year. Then this is part of your rental by the year, or like the
Yes.
payment by the end of the year.
Yes. And one more experience I had is one of the communities. I met someone when I was searching for rental. They said we have a big problem for infestation of cockroaches and everything. So he said even though it looks clean, but whatever you do, they come because the buildings are old, so they somehow infest your. So if you can bear that, so sometimes your neighbors or to be neighbors would give you some nice information that can help you in deciding. Sometimes
Yes.
they might tell you that maintenance is not that good. We keep calling people and they come after a few days and stuff. So this can be something nice to before you decide.
Yes, yes, yes. That is very important.
Okay, that's amazing. And at least we now have the basic information about this. And of course, what we'd love is to keep doing these podcasts. Most probably, people might have more questions when they see the videos. So we'll collect those questions and maybe arrange another podcast for future that can help us or help people know the laws better. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Muddathir, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.